All right, guys, here we go. You're in the right place. If you're here to learn about goal setting, time is one of our only non-renewable commodities. I don't take it lightly that you're sharing yours with me today. It's far, far more valuable than dollars. So I thank you for setting this time aside to learn about this. My mission for this hour is to teach you three things: how our brains are wired to prevent us from goal achievement, the top three obstacles to achieving a goal and strategies for each, and then to invite you to my 30-day goal sprint. So, sad to say, but our brain is not our friend when it comes to goal achievement. And let me share what I mean by that. We have something called a motivational triad, a brain triad, and it is where this is our back brain, our primitive brain. It literally is in the back of our head, and it is wired for survival. Very, very important when it was cave people days and we were living in a cave and we had to be in a community and we had to have if we weren't safe, if we weren't in a community of people, there's no way we would have survived, right? But that doesn't apply to our lives any longer. And yet that brain is still very active and is the reason for a lot of times hijacking goals that you have or intentions that you are making. So the brain is the back brain. I call it the back brain. It's also referred to as lizard brain, primitive brain. There's also an actual scientific term. I won't be using that though. And so it's geared to do three things: to keep you safe, which means to avoid fear. If there's a wild boar outside the cave, very, very smart to stay safe, be fearful. But most of the things that we're fearing today are not dangerous like that. The second is to be efficient, so not to use too much energy. If you were not efficient with how you hunted for the boar, then you might be exhausted. You might become the hunted by the boar, and you needed to do things the same way over and over again because there just wasn't time um, to be doing things differently, right? And the third is pleasure, avoiding discomfort. Can I just make sure everyone's on mute? Okay, pleasure. So avoiding discomfort. Now that was you had to have a motivation to eat. That would keep you alive, right? You have a motivation to procreate. That's how the community was going to stay alive. A motivation for connection with each other. None of these are bad things. They're all very important. Of course, you want to be safe. Of course, pleasure is important. Of course, efficiency serves a purpose, but only to a certain point. Only to a certain point. So what happens is that um, your brain is keeping you safe to keep you alive, to avoid the risks. And today, the way it's doing that is it's keeping you safe by not trying something new or challenging. I don't know anyone who sets a goal that it's in the kinds of goals I'm inviting you to set would be bigger reaches, not like I'm going to start to put my shoes away every day. That's not a big reach, right? But I'm going to be putting my shoes on every day and going on a walk. That might be a bigger reach. So the brain is trying to just say, let's avoid things that seem a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit scary. The example I have here is starting a big project or speaking in public, right? Those do not come with a natural sense of safety. So the goal might require, though, taking these steps, getting out of your comfort zone, but your back brain is like, hang on, sweetheart, this is going to be dangerous. Let's not do this. So you have to learn how to override that, right? So you want to go for the promotion, you want to apply for the job, you want to have the difficult conversation with somebody in your life, but your brain is saying that's not going to feel safe. That's going to feel very vulnerable. You're going to feel fear. So let's go ahead and just keep things as they are. Then I mentioned that the brain seeks efficiency. This one was newer to me. I hadn't thought about that, but basically it means avoiding work, right? So your brain wants to save energy by doing things the easiest and the fastest way possible. That's an excellent tool for you to have in your back pocket, right? That you're doing things in an easy and fast way. But it then means that you're not geared to sustained effort and learning new skills and things that are going to feel inefficient. When you first learned how to walk, it was inefficient. Crawling was so much more efficient to get from A to B. And then you started to walk and you would fall and it would take you longer. And then you would learn to run. And then let's talk about riding a bike. Like none of those things are efficient initially. They require this effort. They require energy. And if we don't allow for that, if you don't expect that, then sometimes as we're going for goals, we're like, this is actually just going to be too hard. And I'm just going to go back to my old ways. I mean, how many of us have done that, right? We've got a goal, we set out, and then it gets just a little tough and we just default to how we've always been before, right? So that is your brain trying to keep things efficient to avoid the hard thing. Okay. And then the brain seeks pleasure. I mean, this one, we are surrounded by dopamine opportunities now. At the time, it was the pleasure was food, shelter, comfort, procreation, all of that was important. And you were rewarded with the dopamine, right? We know what that's like. Now, today, that pleasure is well beyond food, shelter, comfort, survival when we're planning a goal. If you are in a situation where you can actually be setting a goal, my guess is that you have the food, the shelter, and the comfort you need to survive. So, what you're going to be trying to do with the goal is ultimately get that dopamine hit when you cross the finish line, whatever that finish line is. But in the meantime, there are going to be a million tiny distractions around you. The eating of the junk food, picking up the phone to play a game, the picking up the phone to talk to somebody, the I'm just going to tidy the pantry, right? Some of these things actually look pretty and necessary, but they really are just ways to get immediate hits of dopamine and avoid the work involved in going for the goal that you've set for yourself. So you just have to know that goals require work all the time, right? And they mostly require delayed gratification. This is not the best news for most of us, and we know it intellectually, but I'm going to share how we embody it. What happens when we come to the realization that this is not going to be an immediate win, whatever it is that you're doing on your way to achieving the goal, right? So just think about it right now. Can anyone think of something that they naturally do when what they're doing toward their goal just becomes difficult? It doesn't feel efficient, it doesn't feel pleasurable. You do something different than what you said you were going to do, right? Again, you pick up the phone or you tidy something or you just move to another project that's also necessary, but it's not what you'd planned to be doing. Okay, so I want to teach you how knowing how your brain's default is this safety, efficiency, and pleasure, how we're going to map out your goal achievement. But the way I'm going to do this is to tell you the three reasons why most of us don't achieve a goal. They link together with the brain triad, the motivational triad, right? The first is a negative thought you keep thinking. I'm going to go into much more detail about each of these, but the overview is this negative thought you keep thinking is the reason you don't achieve a goal. The second is an undesired feeling you resist feeling. And that might sort of trip you up a little bit, right? Like, of course, if it's undesired, I'm not going to try to feel it, right? I'm going to share how that sabotages the goal. And then finally, an intentional action you do not take, something that you know you need to be doing in order to get from A to B, and you don't do it. I know this all can sound a bit obvious, but be really open to which of these maybe is the number one reason why you don't achieve goals or what causes a little bit of frustration or stress while you're achieving the goal. And I want to have you decide today on this call that whichever one of those things is leading, you're going to eliminate it by the end of the call. And I'm going to show you how at the very end. Okay. A negative thought you keep thinking, I'm too old. This will be hard. I won't have extra support. My bosses, my daughters, my husbands, my wives, this. I've never done this before. The economy is bad. I'm not that capable. I've failed before. I hear this a lot. Well, I've never had success with this before. I don't know why this time will be different. I shouldn't have to. Come on. Have you heard this before? Like, I shouldn't have to deal with all this that I'm dealing with right now. I hear it a lot with women in menopause. Like, this shouldn't have to be this hard, right? Well, when we're fighting with that reality, we are not clearing the path for us to just take the steps that are necessary to achieve the goal. It will take too long. I think you've probably heard that anything worth having is worth all the time that it requires to have it. I don't have the money. This won't be fun, and I'll probably fail. Any others that come up for you, feel free to put in the chat if you want, and or just think for a moment. What thoughts are you thinking that you can tell immediately are limiting you from progress, from growth, from change, from elevating? And remember, a thought is also a bias, an assumption, interpretation, a story, a belief. For some of you who've worked with me and or you have been on these calls before, you'll know that the very foundation of coaching is realizing that a circumstance is different than a thought. A circumstance is neutral. It carries no charge, no emotional charge. The day of the week, what someone said, a situation in your home. No adjective, just neutral. And then the thought you have is what creates the feeling in you, the assumption, the bias, the interpretation, the belief you have about that circumstance, right? So think about some people just say, this is just a fact. Can everyone just turn off their mics? I don't know if I'm able to do that for people. Let me just look for 1 second, guys, so I can turn off. Okay. So some people just state things like it's the news. Well, the economy is bad, Kristen, so that's why I haven't been able to A, B, or C. Like, okay, but my guess is that someone with fewer resources than you has done more than you this year, this month, this week. So if you tell yourself that I'm too old, it's just a fact, I'm too old. You are only going to be looking for evidence to confirm that you are too old for this goal, for what you want to achieve. And I promise you that when you tell yourself this, you've probably heard of a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? When you tell yourself, I'm too old, you will look for all the evidence that you are too old. And then you will make sure that that is the reason why you don't achieve what you want to achieve, right? So this is what I'm referring to by a negative thought you keep thinking. All righty. So it's what I've just said here right now, that you think that these thoughts are just automatic and that they're not they're always optional, guys. You do not have to think thoughts that are not getting you closer to the goal that you want to achieve. Okay, so there are so many strategies, but I wanted to leave you with a very doable, simple process to challenge the negative thoughts you might be thinking. Let's say that your thought is, this is going to be too hard. Okay. You want to identify that thought that's responsible for you not feeling what you need to feel to motivated, committed, curious to get to your goal. And then you want to challenge that thought. This isn't fair. This is too hard. I have too much to do. There's not enough time. All of these are just thoughts, guys. They're not the truth, but we think they're the truth, right? So you want to ask yourself, like, is this true? Is it true that I don't have enough time? And if it is, how do I solve for that, right? If I have, I like to say the math has to math, right? So if there are only 168 hours in a week, in a week, yeah, and you try to fill in 190 hours of work, then it's true. There's not enough time. So then you can go, okay, I'm going to solve for that now. Instead of just telling yourself on repeat over and over again, there's not enough time, I'm too old. Take away what's the reality here? What are the actual facts in the situation? And how can I solve for this? The next one, and by the way, I got these 3 questions from Jon Acuff's Soundtrack book. I love, love, love the book. Jon Acuff, he's really funny. Soundtrack book. He's also a coach. The next is it helpful? Okay, well, I am older than I was yesterday, but is it helpful to keep reminding myself that as I'm trying to make some changes? Um, there are only 168 hours in a week, or there are 168 hours in a week, right? Which one sounds more helpful to say? I will make sure that um, let me think of how I can say this. Another would be, if it's not fair or this shouldn't be this way, is that really helping you? You want to really be catching what you're telling yourself. Is that helping you? And then finally, just a very basic thing, is it kind? Is it kind to say, I never really follow through, or this is too hard, or I don't even have any idea I'm going to do this. And it just sounds very disempowering. In fact, it is very disempowering. And what you tell yourself, remember, what you think ends up in your results. So if you aren't being kind to yourself, if what you're telling yourself isn't helpful, and if it's not true, then you are fast tracking yourself to a crash, to not achieving the goal. And um, it's solvable. It's solvable. The next one, I love this one. An uncomfortable feeling you resist feeling. Raise your hand. This is me. This is 100% me. I've got a pretty good handle on my thoughts. I've got a good handle on my actions. But this one, I'm like, who wants to embrace embarrassment, right? Who wants to choose to do something where they know that there might be worry involved, or you might feel silly or dumb? Or I hear this a lot. I've got a lot of entrepreneurs in my clientele, and they're like, it feels salesy to be active on social media, right? Or I feel a little superior if I'm doing this. Like, what if I go out and make all this money? I might feel better than other people in my surroundings. I might feel, or they might think that of me, right? So remember now the brain triad, the motivational triad. Your brain wants to keep you safe. Safety does not come in the form of being embarrassed, exhausted, worrying, failing, vulnerability. But I'll tell you what, progress, growth, change, goal, accomplishment does. It requires this. I don't know one person who doesn't have at least one of these feelings as they're accomplishing. You're setting out to walk 100 miles this month. You might feel like a little overwhelmed by that thought, right? You are deciding that you are going to go for the promotion. It might feel a little bit vulnerable to have to tell people around you, I really want that job. This is what I want to do, right? Um, let's say the goal is actually to set up a retirement plan, like to go ahead and create a plan for yourself to not be a professional employee any longer, employer, or own a business, whatever that might be. That could create worry. What if? What about the money? What about my identity? I hear that a lot. I'm working with some people now who are working toward that, and their identity is so wrapped up in their professional title that they worry, what will it be like, right? And so guess what happens when we do this? We spin or we just freeze. We do nothing. You've heard the fight or flight. That's what happens here, right? And what I want to share with you is it's just a feeling. Embarrassment doesn't last for very long. I bet there's something that happened to you at some point where you got embarrassed. And when you look back on it now, you might giggle a little bit, or you might actually recall it again and get red in the face one more time. But it hasn't lasted for your whole life. The worry hasn't lasted for your whole life. I do think I find a lot of people who just seem to find comfort in anxiety and worry because they think if I worry enough, X won't happen. You know, it's not true. It's a lie you tell yourself, right? I've certainly felt silly or dumb. I don't know that I've ever felt salesy, but I felt very exposed. When I do something like this kind of a webinar, I always feel a bit exposed. Well, I am, but I have to just embrace that. Like I'm going to feel a little bit anxious before I open up the Zoom room and I start to talk and share with people, right? I might feel a little silly. Everything might not go how I hoped it's going to go. So that might be a little bit of a failure fear. That's okay. None of that has to be a problem, right? Okay, so this is again when you're avoiding the discomfort. Sorry about my extra commas there. I like this picture because it's like this person is just staying in a perfectly white, lovely space where there's not no ick, no difficulty, no hard work, just peace and serenity. And that is not going to be the path to a goal. Okay, so if this is the case, you're going to feel some things that you don't want to feel. You just need to accept the fact that in order to achieve a goal, you're going to feel uncomfortable. There is going to be discomfort. It might be physical discomfort if all of a sudden you're going to lift weights. If you just decide this is the weight and this isn't really uncomfortable, your muscles are not going to grow, right? But if you decide, no, I'm going to go ahead and pick up the 10-pound weight, it's going to hurt a little bit. But as I'm working through this, I am building muscle, I am changing, I'm growing, right? So think about that in an emotional way. As I continue to fail forward, I am growing, I am learning, right? I love to say that failure is just data. It's just data. And the only reason that anyone doesn't achieve a goal is because they stop working for it. It might take 10 years to achieve a fabulous goal that you have for yourself, or it might take one day. But the only reason you won't do it is because you just stop going for it, right? And that's usually because of a thought, a feeling, or an action you're not taking, right? So I would recommend after this is over, create a list for yourself of the feelings that you're resisting. And then ask yourself what resisting those feelings is costing you. Let's talk about something like, I think about this so often, like, let's say trying to meet somebody, right? Someone you want to be in an intimate relationship. It takes a lot of guts to go up to someone in a bar to get on a profile and post about yourself, right? But if you don't do that, you're never going to meet anybody, right? So you just know, well, I'm just going to have to move forward with this, feel uncomfortable, feel vulnerable, feel exposed, and do it anyway. My coach says, I love this term. I'm going to use it again later in the slides, but to gag and go. Okay, so I feel uncomfortable. That doesn't mean I stop. I have to gag and go. Got to follow through with what I said I'm going to do, right? Okay. The final one is an intentional action you aren't taking. This is a very obvious one. This is when most people are like, well, duh. But it's pretty simple to solve for this, right? If I know that in order to get more fit, I need to go to the gym and I don't do it, of course, I'm not going to reach my goal. Now, you know that the reason you're not going to the gym or asking for help or looking at your checking account, as you said you were going to do, is because of a feeling and a thought. So they all go together in that way. But so often when we are planning a goal, we think, okay, I'm going to get out my pad of paper and I'm going to write down everything I need to do to find a new job in 2025. And I promise you that everything that's on your paper is going to be a very actionable item. It's going to be like a get on LinkedIn, update my resume, maybe get in a job, build my network, maybe learn some job searching tools, maybe take a course on interviewing. It's all going to be that kind of stuff, right? But I want to encourage you when you're writing down all the things you want to be doing to achieve a goal, also say, allow and expect discomfort, allow some of the thoughts, but don't act on them, and write them out. Like, expect to be thinking this is too hard, and don't let that stop you. So these are the things you want to do in addition to the actual things you can kind of check off your list, like, oh, I'm going to buy the class, I'm going to get on the scale, I'm going to save $10, whatever those things are. Just as important is going to be saying, what feelings I'm going to allow, not going to resist any longer, and then what thoughts I'm not going to think any longer. I also love this. I find so often that people are like, well, I don't feel inspired. I don't feel motivated. You don't have to. You don't have to feel inspired or motivated to do what you said you're going to do, right? I imagine there's something that you do every single day in your house or once a week in your house that you're not inspired to do or motivated to do, but you do it anyway. It could be as simple as flossing your teeth. It could be as more involved as, um, cleaning out a closet or something that you just don't feel really inspired, but you're going to do it because you said you were going to do it. And you know that you're going to get a result that you want as a result, right? So do not wait for inspiration, for motivation. Don't wait to feel ready. That one cracks me up when people are like, I'd like to do that, but I'm just not ready. Well, that's a feeling, ready. Telling myself I'm not ready is a thought that creates a feeling of probably stall, or a feeling of behind, or a feeling of what? What would it be? Another one? Gosh, I think some people keep getting kicked out. Welcome back. So don't wait to be inspired or motivated. And oftentimes the I'm not ready is because you're avoiding the fear of failure, of being ill-prepared, of avoiding feeling self-conscious. You see how it all goes together. It's not just an actual fact, like I'm not ready, I needed to have more support, or I need to have my ducks in a row. No, you don't. You actually don't. But if you keep telling yourself that, you'll probably never be ready. Okay. Okay. So this is what I've already just said. I should have just moved to this page. But what you want to do when you're thinking about achieving the goal is, of course, map out small chunks, actions that you will be taking daily or weekly to get to the goal. And assign them a day and a time on your calendar, and then expect to not want to do them. Just expect it, and don't make that a problem. So when you look down and say, oh, I was going to work out for an hour, I don't really feel like working out for an hour. You don't have to feel like it, but you're going to do it. Okay. Another strategy I've just recently heard that I thought was brilliant is, okay, so you've put on your calendar that you're going to work on that project for a half an hour, but you don't really want to do it. Okay, don't do it, but don't let yourself do anything else in the meantime. Just sit there. Just sit there. And if you sit there for 1, 2, 3 minutes, I bet you'll start working on it, right? It's not like, oh, I don't really feel like working out, I'm going to go back to sleep. Can't go back to sleep. You just have to sit at the edge of your bed or sit in a chair for the same amount of time that you would have been doing the activity, right? And then you'll be like, what in the world? It'll be another feeling that maybe you don't want to feel, like I feel lazy, or I feel like I'm being irresponsible, or I feel like I'm being what would be another word, like when you're not being true to yourself, right? That's going to probably make you take action. You're like, I don't want to feel that way. Okay. So the other thing is, when you plan out all the actions, you're using your front brain. You've heard that prefrontal cortex, right? The one that doesn't fully develop until our mid-20s, sometimes a little bit later. This is where you want to be acting from. You always want to be making plans from a place of calm and peace and focus. And then you want to expect this back brain, the lizard brain, to want to sabotage you the entire time and not make that a problem. Like, oh, here she is. I like to say to myself too, like, thank you, worry. I know you're here to keep me safe, but it's not necessary right now. So I'd like to put you in the passenger seat. I'm not going to be able to remove the worry entirely, probably. But as Jon Acuff says in Soundtrack, I think that was the book that he said this into, you're going to turn the dial down. Worry is not going to be the overwhelming feeling that I'm going to be acting from. I'm going to turn it down so I've got room for another feeling. Sort of like I take the aux cord away from worry or anxiety. Okay. I talked quickly. I want to go over this again. Okay, so this is how your brain hijacks your best intentions. Focuses on keeping you safe. That means avoiding avoiding unpleasant feelings like fear, embarrassment, vulnerability. Oh, let me highlight boredom. I find that to be almost always a part of the culprit. Yes, embarrassment and fear are more obvious. They kind of take center stage and we talk about things that are unpleasant. A lot of people don't like to be bored. Um, I could probably go on a tirade about how we are raising children who don't ever expect to be bored, right? You just pop a screen in their face because they don't know what it's like to just sit around and be bored and have to come up with some of their own activities, right? It's just not common any longer for a child to be bored. You want to feel bored and do it anyway. There is nothing really sexy about consistent routine action over time. It becomes boring, but it's just part of the ride. It's just part of the process. And so if you don't expect to feel motivated, jazzed, excited every time you do whatever it is that you're working toward, you're half the way there because you're not going to let that sabotage you. Okay, the next is, and this should say focuses. It focuses on keeping things on autopilot, efficient, avoid hard work. Now, I coach a lot of people who own their own businesses or lead a lot of other people. Systems are important. Certain things on autopilot, very important. But you always want to be assessing, is this system actually working? If you have a system for eating that's getting you a result that you don't like, then you want to shift that system, right? If you have a system at work that is not working, you're going to probably assess it, right? You're going to say, what's working, what's not? How can I do something different? You want to do the same thing with your own personal goals. So if your system is having you avoid hard work, avoid something new, avoid change, then you can bet that you're probably on autopilot and it's not going to get you where you want to go. And then finally, if your brain is constantly redirecting you toward pleasure, that's again sort of the screen, right? For a child, like they just want to always be feeling happy and pleasurable and entertained. Well, it's just not really the human experience to always be feeling those things. So you're looking for the dopamine hit, you're looking for the distraction, the immediate gratification. If you decide that you are going to be saving $10,000 over the course of the year, you're going to have to be taking actions all the time. You might have to say, I don't get to go to that movie, which would be something that would be a dopamine hit, right? I don't know why I'm using that as an example, but I think that sometimes when there's a super measurable thing like losing of weight, saving of money, how many miles you're going to walk this month, how many times you're going to get on your yoga mat, whatever it might be, you want to be expecting and allowing the temptation for a dopamine hit and resist it. All of this requires tremendous emotional maturity. That is ultimately what happens in a coaching container, that more and more emotional maturity is built when we realize that circumstances are not actually causing our feelings. It's the thoughts we have about them, right? And we want to be open to all the feelings. Life is 50-50. You are going to be feeling some unpleasant feelings along with excellent feelings. And I think that's a win. I want to be feeling things like that. I don't want to, if I see something that's I find socially unjust, I don't want to feel neutral about it. I want to have a feeling about it, and then I will take action from that feeling. So you don't always want to be in la la land, happy elation, right? In fact, if you are, you're probably have very low expectations for your life, and or you are using a substance of some sort. You are getting that hit all the time through a drug or a food or gambling or something, an overing of something, right? So if you are doing that, you realize it's not the human experience to always feel pleasure, to always avoid pain, to always just keep things very efficient. It's just not the human experience if you're going to be growing. I mean, thank the Lord, there are other people who've invented things left and right, up and down, who decided, I'm going to sort of take a risk here and I'm going to see if we could do something. Okay. So then I've kind of already tied this in, but I want to wrap it up with this. The three obstacles are a negative thought that you keep thinking. And oftentimes it's on default. You're not even aware that it's there. You just are saying it like it's the news, right? Like, well, it's just a fact. An undesired feeling you resist feeling. That's the gag and go, right? Or an intentional action you do not take. And the reason you don't take it is because of one or two. It's because of a thought you're thinking or an undesired feeling that it's going to create by taking that action. So it is very easy to say, well, just commit to doing what you said you were going to do, right? Okay. But it's probably not going to actually always work. You're going to start to feel drained. You're going to run out of steam. You definitely will run out of discipline, willpower, and motivation. I promise you, you will. Those are not long-lasting feelings. Those are in small doses. They're finite. They are finite. If you want to feel committed, that feeling can go on forever. I like to think about that like when I when I got married to my husband, I wasn't thinking like, well, we'll just take it day by day. I was like, I'm all in. I'm in for the rest of our lives until something might come up that would make me really question whether I wanted to stay in this relationship or not. I'm not like, well, I just have to feel motivated to stay in this marriage. Like, no, I don't. I do not have to feel motivated. I'm committed. This is what I'm doing. Use that same thing. I bet when you have your child, you're committed to your child, to all that it takes to to keep your child safe and sheltered and have the food that he or she needs, right? You're committed. You don't have to be motivated and elated and disciplined and have all this willpower to raise your child. This is just what you do, right? Okay. So here are the strategies to override. I've sort of referred to them already, but I wanted to give you some actual examples. Identify the negative feelings that are responsible for not achieving your goal. And I'm sorry, the negative thoughts that are responsible. I gave you just they're just a tiny few examples. We have, most say, 70,000 thoughts that run through our brain every day. And 85% or more are on default. They're subconscious. We do not know that we're thinking them. When we get into our car, we don't have to want to rethink how you start a car, right? You want those things to be on default. But you also might have some assumptions, opinions, biases towards situations, systems, people, experiences that you also think on autopilot and you're on default and you're not questioning. And this is a tough thing because a lot of people don't like to get really honest with themselves about the negative thinking. One of the exercises I invite all of my clients to do is to start a thought download. I learned this from Brooke, my teacher coach, my mentor coach, and she would recommend that every morning she would recommend morning. You can do it anytime you want. Take pen to paper or pencil to paper. Not don't type it. Don't put it in your notes, and just write down everything that's in your brain. And just give yourself 3 to 5 minutes. This is not meant to be an onerous activity. This is meant to be just a dump what's in the brain onto a piece of paper. And what I find is by about day 5 to 7, people stop doing this exercise because what's on the paper is really negative and they don't like to identify with those thoughts. But the only way to get from here to here is to know what's happening in that brain. You've got this big, gorgeous, beautiful brain, and there's a lot of junk in there that we want to get rid of, right? So the way we're going to do that is we're going to be aware of everything that we're thinking. And then if you want to really get sort of, be the valedictorian, beside every thought, what feeling does that create in you? What feeling? So if you're telling yourself I'm too old, then I feel despondent or I feel unmotivated or I feel sad. Okay, is that going to get you to take the actions that you want to take to whatever it is that you think you can't do? Train for the race, get the new job, start a business, whatever it is, right? So you're identifying the negative thoughts, then you're attaching the feeling to them. You're identifying what kind of cascades from the thought, what feeling is created. Okay, so then you're going to list the feelings you most often avoid. This is different from the thought download. Are you someone who's like, I will do anything I can to not disappoint someone? The feeling of disappointment is so strong in me that I will people please. I will bend myself into a pretzel to make sure everybody likes me. That is not going to move you toward your ultimate goal. I just won't. I promise you that. You're going to spend far more time being a perfectionist or people pleasing than doing what you have to do to get where you want to go. And I'm not telling you about elbows out and being, rude to anybody. I'm just saying you got to be honest with yourself, right? Okay. This is such a fun exercise. Brooke again taught me this, taught all of us this when we were going through our training. She would say, okay, so you feel embarrassed. We all are like, oh, embarrassed, terrible feeling. Most people in a group are be like, oh, we want to avoid that. She would say, pretend like you're describing what you're feeling when you're embarrassed to an alien, to a non-feeling person, well, non-feeling being, so an alien. So it's like, well, when I'm embarrassed, my cheeks get a little bit red and I might like start to speak a little bit more quickly and I might have a little, I don't know, like a little knot in my stomach. Maybe my shoulders go in. Maybe I like shrink down because I don't want to be seen. And imagine describing that to the alien and they're like, okay. Like none of that sounds particularly troublesome to them, right? It's like, okay, so you get red cheeks and you get a little bit hot, maybe you sweat a little bit, you've got a knot on your stomach, you move yourself back. Okay, you can survive that, right? Now, I'm not dismissing that there are all types of embarrassment, small stages to large stages. I understand that, meaning an actual stage. If you're with one person and you get embarrassed, it's much different than you step out on a stage with 1,000 people and you think you bomb, right? But in either case, it's just a matter of saying, okay, so I felt a little embarrassed. I'm not going to have that stop me. And I survived that. You have survived 100% of the feelings you've ever had. You're here today. You've had some very unpleasant feelings occur in your life and you've survived them. Okay. Then, of course, the obvious thing, the thing that everyone says to do is to list the actions required for your goal and assign them a date and a time in your calendar. Duh, right? Everyone knows this is what we need to be doing. But now you know that when you are anticipating the thoughts you're going to be thinking and anticipate the feelings that are maybe going to could force you into freeze or flight, could force you into procrastination, then you want to list those all as well. So it's pretty easy if you want to lose weight. You reduce the calories and you increase your activity, right? It's not a hard thing. This is not even complicated. It's all the rest of it that makes it complicated. It's the feelings you have and the thoughts you have that are creating the actions or not creating the actions that are necessary to lose the weight. I want to mention one more thing. Let me see where we are now. Okay. I want to mention one more thing before I go on. I love this. Again, this is so my current coach, her name is Olivia. She taught this to our group as well. I'm going to go ahead and use the weight loss example because it's so easy to visualize. She would say you can reduce the food that you love eating that will have an impact on you losing weight, or you can just keep eating all the food you want, and then the results will show up in your weight. But you can't eat all the food you want and lose the weight. That's called a false third option. And a lot of times we live in the false third option. Well, I want to be able to buy everything I want and also save all this money. You probably can't. I don't know your finances, but it's probably not, it's probably a false third option, right? I want to work for myself, but only work 2 days a week and make 100K. Okay, it's probably not going to happen. It might eventually happen, right? But you're setting yourself up for a false third option. So as you are creating a goal, look at the goal and say, is this doable? Does this make sense? Would someone else looking at this say, yes, this is something that can be accomplished, right? Or is it a false third option? Are you setting yourself up for routine frustration because you can't eat the portions of all the foods that you like and release 10 pounds off your body? You have to be comfortable with the discomfort of not getting everything you want on your way to getting the goal that you want accomplished. Okay? Okay. Questions? Anyone? Let me see if I can get, I'm going to just do this for a second. I can see the chat. Oh no. Okay. I can't tell if there are. Yeah. Okay. Let me see here. Um, I'm not qualified enough. Yeah. Gag and go. Yeah. Berenger, I know that's a fantastic one. And Michelle saying, so many goals on my list. I'm fighting overwhelm by adding something. Okay, fantastic. The other thing, well, let me talk about, okay, well, the other thing that I believe strongly in is working on one goal at a time. Now, over the course of a year, you can work on many goals, but at one time block, I believe maybe you could have a personal and a professional goal. I'll give you that. But you don't want to have three personal goals and three professional goals that you're working at simultaneously. And I'll tell you why. Because you will use the goals as distractions from the other goal. You'll use two of the goals as a distraction from the first goal. So if I say I want to build my business, I want to gain visibility. I also want to make this amount of money. I also want to take this course. I can use them all against each other. Like, well, but I'm taking the course, and that's important. But then I'm not focusing on um, the money I'm creating and or the visibility, right? So focusing on one thing at a time is what matters the most. You don't try to learn three languages at a time. You learn one language at a time, right? One language at a time. Think over and over again about the times that you allowed yourself to be distracted by things that appeared to be important and pretty and necessary, right? But really, if you look back, you're like, oh, I was really using them against each other so that I achieved nothing or I achieved far less than I could have in that period of time, right? I'm reading a book now that is outstanding. It's called The 12-Week Year. And it talks about having all your goals broken into 12-week segments. Basically, it's a quarter, right? If you were working in a business, you'd say Q1, Q2. But he's doing it a little bit differently than that. And he reiterates this too, the importance of just having one measurable thing you're doing at a time. And then you'll build on it. You don't just stop that goal. Then if you wanted to get to a certain fitness level, you've got to maintain that activity to maintain the fitness, right? But then you can add another layer on, another goal onto the list. And you can add more than it doesn't have to be for the whole 12 weeks. It might be that you accomplish the first thing in the first week. Fantastic. And now you're going to shift to the next thing. Okay, which is a lead into my, um, let's see if I missed anything. Okay, and I think I can go was so funny too. we've done this. Okay. The reason why I have begun doing these 30-day sprints, this will be my third sprint with clients, and it's an all-female group, and we choose one goal. And I've just explained to you why, one goal. And you work on it every single day of 30 days. There's no room to take a break, really, if maybe 1 or 2 days, but it's not possible to take long breaks if it's only a 30-day period, right? So some of the achievements, some of you who are on the call are listed here with some of what you've accomplished. Some of the achievements people have achieved in 30 days is walking 80, 100, 120 miles. Amazing. If you set out to say, I'm going to walk 400 miles over 12 weeks, you'd have to break it down into weeks, right? You'd have to sort of say, okay, in 30 days and 30 days and 30 days, this is how I'm going to do it. Another person reduced her screen time by 83 hours. That was shock to her that she was on her phone that often that she gained 83 hours in 30 days, right? Lost 4 pounds. Another person lost 2 pounds. One person got a job. I can't guarantee you'll get a job in 30 days, but she did. She really put her mind to it. And that's what she focused on every single day. Created the habit of a morning routine, getting on one's yoga mat 27 days. So there you go. It wasn't every single day, but it became a routine, right? Painting every day. Another person committed to only having 2 drinks of alcohol a week and was able to follow through on that. Another person who's on this call right now is going to plan a whole year's worth of vacations and events for her family. It doesn't mean that every single thing gets done, but it means that you've begun the process. You've created the system. So I'm going to move ahead to this, and I'm going to show you where you can learn more about that if you'd like. But this is my answer to helping you, walking you through coaching, teaching, learning how to do all that I've just said. I know for sure that being in a group of people and having people who depend on you doing what you said you're going to do is important to you building your own accountability. And accountability is ownership, right? It's not my job to keep you accountable as your coach. I will be there to challenge the thoughts that you're thinking, the feelings you're resisting, and the actions you're not taking. But it's your job to take ownership of what you said you're going to be doing, right? So this week, call to action, maybe even today, name that one negative thought that you think often and challenge it. Just one. I don't want you to have to empty your brain of 100 thoughts and change all 100 thoughts. I want you to empty your brain and then choose one of the thoughts and just say, I am not inviting this thought into my awareness anymore. That is now gone. It is eliminated from my soundtrack. Next is to identify the three most common feelings you resist feeling. And they're going to change depending on what the activity is, right? But whatever this goal you might have out there, what are the three?
Hello.
Hey there. What are the three things that you are feeling that you want, that you are not feeling, that you know you probably need to be feeling? You've heard that like, um, what's that phrase, guys? It's like the way there's through or something like that. Like the way, does anyone know what that's called? I'm going to look at my chat if anyone knows it. The way, something like the way there is through. Like you can't sort of circumvent and go all the way around. You can, it might just take you a lot longer. The way is right through, go right to the discomfort. Another phrase that I learned from Brooke that I just absolutely adore, it was my screensaver for a long time, was discomfort is the currency to my dreams. Discomfort, not action, not luck, not brain power. No, discomfort is actually the currency. Okay, then finally assign 3 actions to a date and a time on your calendar and follow through as if your life depended on it. And if you look at it and decide not to do it, sit there and do nothing. Do not indulge in a dopamine hit. Just sit there. It will be feeling like a waste of time because it might be, unless what you really want to do is meditate, but then put that in as meditating, right? But you don't get to pick up your phone. You don't get to get on your email. You just sit there for that amount of time that you said you were going to do this. I promise you, I don't have a client yet who hasn't said that that got them to do the thing, or at least built a lot of awareness as to what they were resisting, right? Okay, so I told you that for this hour, where are we now? Okay, we've got 12 minutes. I was going to show you how our brains are wired to prevent us from goal achievement. Again, this is the motivational triad, the brain triad, the back brain, whatever you want to call it. It wants to keep you safe, indulge in, or focus on pleasure, and keep things efficient. The next is the top 3 obstacles to achieve a goal. So it's resisting a feeling that you know you're going to need to probably feel. It is identifying the negative thought that you continue to think. And it is dismissing intentional actions that you need to be taking in order to achieve the goal. Okay. So again, if you'd like to learn more about the 30-day sprint, this is um, the QR code that you can use. I'm going to be sending this out to you also in a replay, so you'll have all of these slides. So you can take notes from the slides later. You can review this yourself if you'd like. And now I'd like to stop sharing my screen. And I want to, oh, it was, okay, let's see. All right, it is, let me get the chat back up again for myself. Um, yes, thanks, Debbie. The only way out is through. Oh, I didn't know it was Robert Frost. Okay, I love it. The only way out is through. Okay, now, does anyone have any questions or want some coaching on something that has been a bit of a challenge to them? You're welcome to join me through the chat, or you can turn your screen on, or you can just speak. You don't even have to have your screen on if there's a question you have. How about, was this new information for anyone?
Question.
Yes.
This is Michelle, and I'll be vulnerable and put mine. Well, I can't actually see it all. Anyway, I'm here. I am. Okay.
Okay, you're
So
perfect.
all right. So on the thought, um, I see they're mostly like about ourselves. Like we shouldn't use like this person, other person that we can't control is irritating us as the thought. Like I don't want to think about them anymore. Or could that be a thought because they bring up
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. The examples I gave were more things about you, or about us, of how we think about ourselves. A million times it could be, I can't do this because of her, or this can't happen because of him, or he shouldn't act this way. Then that might be, if it's related to the goal. Well, this is, of course, just about building just
just
uh,
about the thought. Yeah.
mhm. But when we are shoulding, um, you've probably heard me say this before, but when you are shoulding how someone else is behaving, you're arguing with reality. Well, that person is behaving that way. It doesn't mean you have to stay in their company. It might be that you leave the relationship, leave the job, leave the grocery line, whatever it is, right? But fighting how they're acting, you will lose 100% of the time. And you can often tell that if it's like they should be different. Why? Why should they be different? Maybe there's some opportunity for you to learn in that situation. You don't, again, have to stay around. And I'm never talking about abuse. Abuse, different, step aside, leave, whatever you need to do. I'm talking about sort of conflict between two people. Um, I'm talking about even like the government or anything. This shouldn't be what's happening. This is not how it's supposed to be. Well, it is. It is. It is. It is. And arguing with that just sets you up for a lot of disempowerment because it's like, well, then I'm at the mercy of that person or that system or you know, that circumstance, right? And you don't have to be. You don't have to be. But let's think, Michelle, if there was a goal that was related to the way you would scrub that, the way you get sort of clean about that is knowing that you have nothing you can do about him or her. Hold on, there's someone. Oh dear, someone's just joining us now. Great, welcome. There's nothing you can do about him or her. Then what do you have control over? What can you do in that situation? And you know, the thing is, there are always choices, there are always options. You might just not like them. And that's having to get really honest with yourselves, right? There's always a choice available to you. Always, always, always. And a lot of people are like, I can't, I'm stuck, my retirement, my blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's not true. None of those are just circumstances, but you've made them true by saying, I can't. I don't have any options. It's not true. We always do. So yeah, so if someone else is in your negative thought line, just challenge it for yourself and decide continuing to tell myself this is probably not going to serve me. And I'm not dismissing the fact that what I feel about that person is what I feel about that person. I'm just not going to let it, take up space in my brain any longer. And
That's
or
very helpful. Yeah, that's good. That's good. I mean,
okay,
I
okay.
think the good perspective. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next question. One of my favorite things that I've learned, really, and it's new for me, I'm trying to see if anyone else in my mastermind is in here. I don't think so. From Olivia was that putting in the action line, allowing the thoughts, expecting the thoughts, allowing the feelings, expecting the feelings. That was just like, I just learned it last year. It's like, that is a game changer for me. That it's not just all the things that you do, it's the things that you think and the things that you feel are in the action line as well. Okay, Megan.
Hello. Yeah, I wanted to, so I have like three different goals that I'm working on, and I'm probably playing them off against each other. So I'm getting a doula certification, and in my doula certification, they said you don't have to wait to get your certifications to start practicing, you know.
I love it.
Um,
Yes. But
and then I'm also getting a certification as a Ayurveda health coach,
you're
um, and getting a divorce. So I'm playing all these things. Yeah, and I'm totally, yeah, I'm never finishing any of them.
yes.
So how do you decide, or what's a way to kind of help, which is which should be the priority goal?
Well, there wouldn't be a should. There's no one that should be the
Okay.
primary cause. You're going to get to choose that. And I would say that getting the divorce does not have to interfere with you becoming a doula or a Ayurveda health coach, right? Those would be two separate goals, probably.
Yeah,
That feel clean?
yeah.
Okay, so the one is professional and the one is personal. Of the doula and then the health coach, are you in simultaneous? You're in programs that are they are happening at the same time?
Yeah, so I've actually taken all the classes and now I just have to do paperwork and homework and a couple tests to complete them.
Okay.
So,
So you're almost at the finish line with both of them.
yes.
And do you want to use them together? Are they meant to be integrated?
Yeah, I
Okay.
was gonna augment the Ayurveda with the doula business. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, so actually, in that case, I'm going to take a little bit back what I said. I think you can do both of those things, but you have to be very clear about when you're working on each. So don't let them blur together. This is my time to work on my doula paperwork, tests, all that. This is my time to do my health coaching work. But one thing I wanted to ask you is it sounds like you are hiding. Like you said, I don't have to have all the certifications to go ahead and call myself a doula and to get business. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that would be another goal that would be because what happens so often is that we think we need more information. I need to consume more. I work with strivers. Everybody I work with is a striver. So they think if I just get that one more degree, that one more book, I get this. I understand. And then we lose trust in ourselves. Like I know enough right now to do a pretty good job as a doula. And I'm going to get better and better as I do more and more. And then I'm going to take care of the paperwork and all that stuff too. But that would be a separate goal from completing all the requirements to get the certification. So you could just say, I'm going to put all that on hold, all the rest of the certification, and just start marketing myself. That could be the goal. And you're probably going to feel really uncomfortable. Like, but I'm not fully certified yet. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to bring some other stuff up. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah, I'm definitely hiding behind it.
Welcome to be a human being, right? I think that a lot of
Yeah.
us do, especially achievers, and it's a perfectionist tendency, and it's really destructive. It doesn't seem destructive, but it really can be because it's like you're never quite ready. You're never quite there. There's always someone who knows more, and I need to learn that more too. Right? Now, I understand if it's an actual degree, you're not going to go out and just perform neurosurgery and not have completed the residency. I mean, I get that, right?
Mhm.
But you're in a different program, like mine. Like I'm in an unregulated field. I don't even need to get a certification. I can just call myself a coach, right? But that is, I could have used that against I did use that against myself too, but I need more. And then I got another, I did the same thing. I kept getting different certifications. And finally I was like, done, 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 done. Just apply what I have, right? Stop consuming, start creating.
Okay. No, that's good. Yeah. I'll have to think about my feelings about that.
And just figure out what feeling is stopping you. Is it like,
Yeah.
again, you don't feel quite competent enough or you don't feel like truthful about your skill set but be honest with yourself. You don't have to tell anyone else what you're feeling or thinking. You're just
Mm.
doing this work on the inner level. But it is something about especially if you've been given permission to go ahead and start working and you're preventing yourself from doing that because you want to finish all the paperwork, there's something right there. That could really be a very cool goal to work on in a 30-day sprint or over a 12-week period. How can I do all of those things?
Mm. Yeah.
And how can that all be related to the same goal of launching my doula health coach business? That would be the goal, launching. And it's going to require finishing some things, it's required marketing, all different things, right? But they're not three separate goals and they all go together.
Okay. No, that's great. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Um, I know being a doula, yeah, I love that. So, okay, next, someone else have a question?
If no one has a question, can I just make a comment? I loved when you were saying about, is this true? Is this kind? And because this is something I sometimes say when people are talking, and they are describing a situation, and I'm like, is this true? Is this really kind to say something like that? But I never thought about applying it to, my own thoughts, and so it's so great, so right.
Good, I'm glad. I think you'd love that book then, Soundtracks by John Acuff. It's a super easy read and he's so funny. Um, Berenger I've met through another friend, and she's a coach in Italy, which is so cool. Um, and just launching her business too, right? So leaving I was going to say corporate America. You weren't in corporate America, corporate Europe.
Well, yeah, it was an American company, so you could
I
say
could,
it.
I remember that, but I was like, but you weren't, okay, awesome. I love that. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it helpful? Very basic things to ask. It's often the simplest activities that move us along. The simple things. And for what's true for you is maybe not true for someone else, and that's totally okay. Yeah, I love that. Anybody else? Oh, it's 2 o'clock. I understand if you need to hop off. I am available if you've got any more questions or if you want to put anything in the chat. It would be helpful to me if before you disconnect, if you would just tell me one takeaway for my use then, what really was new information for you or what landed differently this time when you've heard it. Some of you have been in my orbit for quite some time and have heard me say these things before, but if there's something that really made you think a little differently about goals, achieving a goal, why maybe you don't have the goals that you want accomplished yet, if you put it in the chat. And you can just send it to me if you don't want to send it to everyone. That's perfectly fine. It's so funny from my perspective to just see myself and then all these beautiful names. And I see Kelly. I have a picture of Kelly. Lovely.
Mhm.
Oh, and Darcy. I have a picture of Darcy. That's true too. I think, is that everyone that I have? Yeah. So I know what a lot of you look like though, but it's fun just to see your names there. So, all right, takeaway feelings and thank you. Okay, I'm so glad. Takeaway. That's good. Good, good. Yes, sitting and doing nothing. I mean, that's kind of painful for most drivers, right? To just pass up on that time. Um, Now again, if you scheduled, I'm going to sit and do nothing, then that's cool. Then you sit there and it's been scheduled. But okay. So doing nothing, my takeaway goals. Yeah, goals working against. Oh, that's my daughter. Hey, sweet girl. Goals working against each other. It's so true. The science behind. Okay, yeah, motivational triad. I think I called it the brain triad. It's referred to that. But if you want more information, it's all over the web, the interweb, about the motivational triad. I want to say one more thing about that too, which I think is super helpful. I remember talking to someone who worked with teenagers, and he said that if anyone got in trouble, he would never ask them what they were thinking because they weren't. They were doing impulsive things. They were back here, like seeking pleasure, usually, right? And that was just hijacking this prefrontal cortex that wasn't even fully formed. So think about that if any of you are raising children. It's not that it's not in their control. Everyone has agency and can control themselves, but it's helpful to know a little bit more about why people do that. Um, okay, one personal one, professional goal. Yeah, I love the cringing just thinking about it. Intentional action that I'm not taking, Megan. I'm doing this, but how to change that behavior is what I need. One personal, professional. Work on the actions as my life depends on it. The urgency. Yeah. If it's not urgent, then is it really a goal? And when I say urgent, I mean to put pressure, or overwhelm, but like this matters. This matters to me. I want this. Um, I wrote my goals, but it's so overwhelming to take the step towards my goals. I need help to change, yeah, my views and perspective. And overwhelm only comes from a thought. It doesn't come from how many goals you have on your list. It's how you're thinking about the goals on your list. It's also one of the ways to reduce or eliminate overwhelm is to just chunk it down, right? To do one at a time. Um, Brain chart's new to me. Good, good, good. I like that. Oh, I love it. Take it to your patients. Um, yeah. Isn't that funny that I believe you're a physician too, right? Doyen Mola? And yet it's not something that might be even taught in medical school. False third option. Okay, good, good, good. Yes, I am. Isn't that amazing that it's not something? So when you're talking to a patient about changing behaviors, so that they can maintain their health or regain health or have health for the first time. Knowing about that, a motivational triad is really, really helpful to just let them know it's how your body's wired, and we just have to like overcome that. You're going to not want to do these things that are going to probably build more health if they feel uncomfortable. Um, okay. Any more before I log off? Oh, it's okay. I understand. Yeah, it blows my mind that we have someone from Italy and we've got South Africa, and I actually don't know where some of the other people are from, and then all over the United States, and we're all just here together in my office chatting. I love it so much. All right, well, I will send this replay out to you. I'd love to see you in the 30-day sprint if it appeals to you. I've decided I'm going to walk 100 miles. That's my goal for January 10th to February 10th, and I will be keeping myself accountable, but I will rely on the group to help continue to support me that way. Got it. Bye, Debbie. Bye, Sally. Okay, bye, everyone. Well, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate your investment, and I hope to see you again. Ciao.
Bye. Thank you.
Welcome. Bye.